Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them, and we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, Going to the Chapel, number 2. This book is phenomenal. I loved issue number 1. I think it's a great concept. Issue number 1 had just a great sense of pace and momentum, dialogue, and all that stuff. All of that continues even to the nth degree in issue number 2. This is an expertly crafted comic book. Writer David Pepose, artist Gavin Guidry, colorist Elizabeth Kramer, and lettering by Ariana Mayer. I absolutely love this team. I love this book. It's a great concept. It's basically Die Hard at a wedding. So it's there's this like gang of bank robbers, and they decide they're going to hold up this wedding. But there's a little bit more to it, because it seems that the bride and the leader of this gang of bank robbers have a past, have a connection, right? It's really cool. It's like a romantic comedy done by Quentin Tarantino. I loved line number 1. Issue number 2 builds on that momentum, keeps it going. This book has got perfect dialogue, clean, crisp line work, absolutely beautiful and luxurious coloring, perfectly capturing texture and tone and atmosphere for what's needed, right? And the lettering just rounds it all up. This is absolutely a fantastic comic book. From Action Lab, Danger Zone, Going to the Chapel. I don't really like to say this too much, right? Because every story should stand on its own in its own medium, right? But if there's ever something that just wants to leap off of the comic book page and become a feature film, it's Going to the Chapel. Somebody call up Robbie Rodriguez or something like that. Going to the Chapel is absolutely fantastic. I love this book. If you like crime fiction, if you like the work of Quentin Tarantino, if you like Die Hard, if you like the idea of Die Hard mixed with Wedding Crashers, check out Going to the Chapel. I absolutely love this book. I love this story. I'm becoming attached to these characters. The artwork is splendid. This book is fantastic. Going to the Chapel number 2, out in comic shops this week. Pick of the week for me. If your shop doesn't have it, request that they stock it. Let's move over to Marvel, because the Dawn of X is here, of course. The Marauders, number 1 is here. So I was nervous, probably like a lot of you out there, what's going to happen post House of X, Powers of 10. Well, last week we had X-Men number 1, and I really liked that issue. It seemed like a lot of people did too. Some really fun, interesting things came out of that issue. But we knew that we were going to like that one because it's written by Jonathan Hickman. Now, Jonathan Hickman is like the architect of X, if you will, right? But there's a whole bunch of different creative teams doing these Dawn of X books, the new relaunch of all the X-Men books. And Marauders, it's a weird one, right? But the Marauders are basically a group of evil mutants that like destroyed the Morlocks, right? So it's a weird name for the X-Men to reclaim, right? And just how are these books going to play out? Well, here we are, and I'm going to be reading them and telling you what I think. Marauders number 1 was awesome. I really liked this issue. I thought it was really cool. It does capture the tone of the Jonathan Hickman Hoxpox stuff. It's got the little infographics. It's got that sense of pacing about it. It's got that sense of mystery, that air of nostalgia tinge with something new. The Marauders was really, really cool, and it definitely focuses in on Kitty Pryde, her new role. I really like her new role. I like where it seems like it's developing into. Artwork is solid by Matteo Lolli, Federico Blee, Gary Duggan on the script. Like I said, I'm nervous about all these books that are not necessarily written by Hickman, right? But the Marauders number 1 was a really cool, interesting idea on one facet of what Hoxpox has built up. And I think that basically what Hickman has done is he set up this new world, and now a lot of people get to play in it. And it's really interesting to see how they're going to play in it. At least Duggan and company with the Marauders number 1 have really captivated me. I really like this. I like the character focus in on Pride. I like the inclusion of characters like Iceman, Pyro, Bishop, and of course Storm. It's really badass. The story makes sense. It really helps add dimension to the whole Krakoan mystery and what's going on there, and how the X-Men are going to affect the world, and how the world will respond to the mutants over on their own island nation state of Krakoa. Marauders number 1, I really liked it. I thought it was super solid. So if you're nervous, definitely check out this first issue. I recommend it. If you like what's come so far, especially if you're a big fan of these characters, you're really going to be into it. I think so. Also from Marvel, The Amazing Mary Jane #1, start of a new miniseries focusing in on Mary Jane. So out of recent events that have happened in Amazing Spider-Man by Nick Spencer, Mary Jane is becoming an actor again. She's doing this story, she's doing this movie, I should say, with Mysterio, right? And that's what this miniseries is about. Definitely a focus in on Mary Jane. The book is a little tongue-in-cheek. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's a little goofy. It's a little silly when it wants to be, and that's fine. It's a fun comic. To me, it was all right. It was okay. The artwork was decent. The writing was pretty solid. But for me, it just didn't really pull me in, didn't really keep me interested. It was a little too goofy, maybe just a little too far-fetched. It didn't take itself seriously enough, at least for me. The first issue was okay. It's solid. A lot of people are going to like this. So if you like this character, if you're just a big Spidey head, definitely check it out. But other than that, I don't know. There is an art germ cover, though, that has like some kind of hidden secret variant. So be on the lookout for that. Speaking of Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man Full Circle is here. This is a giant $9.99 comic book. Is it worth $9.99? I would say if you are a super fan of Spider-Man, then absolutely it's worth it. I read this. It's huge. It's long. It takes a long time to get through. What's interesting, though, is this kind of like the Commandy challenge. You know that idea where you would write a little bit of a story, then you'd stop, and then pass it to someone else, and they have to take it and continue the story? That's what it is. Now, it's using amazing creators. Jonathan Hickman, Chris Bachalo, Gary Duggan, Greg Smallwood, Nick Spencer, Kelly Thompson, Al Ewing, Chris Sprouse, Chip Zdarsky, Michael Allred. So it's got some fantastic artwork. It's got some decent writers on it. It's a really weird, crazy, bonkers, wild story. It does include Spider-Ham. So it's fun. It's interesting, but in a week where we have a lot to choose from, it seems like $10 is going to be a bit hefty of a price tag, unless you are the super most hardcore Spidey fan or the super most hardcore fan of any of these creators. I would probably skip this one, maybe come back to it at a later date when it's more affordable. If it's affordable this week, then definitely get it, because it's kind of a fun story and it was interesting, and it's a neat little thing to see this experiment being done with Spider-Man in one book by really, really esteemed and highly acclaimed creators. The Mike Allred bits alone are worth it. The Smallwood book, the artwork is fantastic throughout. The writing's fun. It's a goofy throwaway story. It's $10. I'm just saying. I'm not telling you to commit, but it's pretty nifty. The Amazing Spider-Man is here with issue number 32. This is kind of a prelude to the upcoming 2099 story. So it focuses in on some other things, but mostly building up this whole idea that Miguel O'Hara is back in the present day. There's something terrible happening in the future. He's coming back to stop it. We know we got all these 2099 one-shots coming out. The Alpha, the Omega, the Doom, the Venom, the Ghost Rider, all that stuff, right? So it really kind of starts here. This has been teased at, built up in Nick Spencer's Spider-Man. I'm liking this run so far. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's got enough mystery that's kind of being, excuse me, led out just a little bit. But this issue's pretty decent. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen with the 2099 stuff. Immortal Hulk. Number 25 is here. This is a big extra-sized issue, $5.99. But it's Immortal Hulk. It's got a great cover for me, cover of the week. Seriously, that Alex Ross cover's dope. So after the crazy cosmic horror revelations of the last issue of Immortal Hulk, Al Ewing and company kind of go with that, and they run with it, and they show you something, right? And if you've been reading Immortal Hulk, you kind of get the idea of what they're going to show you. It's something crazy, and it's something nihilistic and just really, really scary, right? And I love it. I love it so much. And then it does this thing where it projects out into the future, and it really kind of delves into some things that have been set up in the last issue, and then it brings it back to set up a really interesting confrontation ahead for the Immortal Hulk. Immortal Hulk by Al Ewing, Joe Bennett, and company has been absolutely fantastic. You have a guest artist throughout most of this issue, and I probably won't be able to find it. Garcia. Yes, Garcia and Joe Bennett, but the artwork is great. The story's really interesting. It's got a lot of crazy, cool, cosmic ideas, and like I said, at the end, it really sets up the next phase of Immortal Hulk, and I really like it. Speaking of the Immortal Hulk, do you remember the Incredible Hulk? Well, if you don't, issue number 1 has a facsimile edition out this week. I love these facsimile editions. It's a great way to love and refresh yourself on comic book history. First appearance of the Hulk by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee out this week, the facsimile. If you never read it, definitely read it. It's a great comic book. King Thor number 2 is out this week, the second part of the miniseries that wraps up Jason Aaron's Thor run, and it starts how it began with Jason Aaron, Assad Ribic, and the God Butcher. That's right. This is really fun. I thought that was him on the cover. Anyway, that's Loki. Anyway, really fun stuff. It ties in everything. Everything that Jason Aaron has been doing on Thor. Everything that was kind of left dangling. It's bringing it all back. This is a story of future Thor, future Loki. And like I said, yeah, he's back. You know he's back. He came back in the end of the last issue. Really fun, exciting stuff. I love the artwork. I love the story. And I really love what Jason Aaron has been able to do with the character of Thor and taking it across all these different ages and the way they're wrapping it up with this King Thor miniseries. I think it's just splendidly perfect. Absolute Carnage, Lethal Protectors, number 3 is here. Final issue of a very weak tie-in to Absolute Carnage, if I'll be honest. What I really like about this book is it did have the origin of the new Demogoblin, and that was super cool. And it also has a nice Maximum Carnage reunion, because you got Firestar, you got Cloak, you got Dagger, you got Iron Fist, you got Deathlock, you got Morbius, you got Shriek. It's really, really fun, right? So as far as that goes, it's a nice tinge of nostalgia, but it feels like the majority of the Absolute Carnage, especially with the tie-ins, has been just a little bit too reliant on nostalgia. And at first, they were really delivering some things with that Separation Anxiety one-shot, with the beginning of the Scream series, with the beginning of Absolute Carnage itself. But now it seems like it's just kind of weakening just a little bit, especially amongst the tie-ins for me. Lethal Protectors, overall, it's not my favorite at all of the Absolute Carnage miniseries, but it was a nice, fun bit of nostalgia to have the Maximum Carnage high school reunion, basically. Avengers number 25 is here. Jason Aaron has been doing a pretty decent job with Avengers, but it doesn't feel as epic as it should be. Like, when this book first started, I thought it was going to be so epic. It started off so big with the Celestials falling from the sky and everything. And to be honest, even though I've enjoyed this run mostly throughout, it hasn't ever reached that feeling of threat, right? So this is the conclusion of the challenge of the Ghost Rider story, and it's interesting, and it's just a nice little focus in on Robbie Rodriguez's Ghost Rider character. But it just didn't really, I don't know, it just kind of fell flat for me. It didn't really do anything. I was kind of anticipating a lot more Ghost Rider-centric stuff, some big deal type stuff happening, and I don't know what's going on. Avengers is okay. It's all right. It doesn't feel as big as it should be. The Avengers should be going up against big threats. It should be like Justice League level type stuff. And to me, it's just kind of been petering around a little bit. It's got some fun bits here and there. I love the inclusion of Blade. I love the spotlight on the Ghost Rider mythology. But I don't know. But it doesn't have a cool setup at the end of here. It really sets up maybe what Jason Aaron's next phase of Avengers is. Because it feels like it's just becoming a slight bit stagnant for me. Punisher Kill Crew number 4 is here, the penultimate issue. I love this book. Gary Duggan, Juan Ferreira. The artwork is absolutely fantastic. Get this artist on a Blade book. Seriously, the art is absolutely fantastic. The story is fun. It's Punisher dealing with the leftovers from the War of the Realms, right? So it's Punisher, and he's got this ragtag team, this kill crew, if you will, and it's really fun. Foggy Nelson's involved, Juggernaut, Black Knight's showing up now. Really fun stuff. Doesn't take itself very seriously at all. It's just a nice, fun romp through Punisher Kill Crew. The art sells this book for me. It's just a really fun experience. I absolutely love it. Jane Foster Valkyrie number 4 is out this week. This book's pretty decent, but it's just decent. It's just kind of like middle of the road. It's all right. I love the characterization of Jane Foster. That's spot on. I love some of the new mysteries about the Valkyrie and her powers. But overall, the book, 4 issues in, hasn't really done too much to completely sink its teeth into me. And this feels like something that's going to last just a little bit and then kind of peter out. Hopefully that's not the case. I do love this character. It's got solid artwork through it. Al Ewing and Jason Aaron doing a great job with the character of Jane. It just feels, though, like the story hasn't hit a level where it's like a must-read, right? And in this day and age where there are so many comic books, especially so many from Marvel themselves, you got to be more than just okay, more than just run-of-the-mill. To me, Jane Foster Valkyrie is a good, fun, solid comic, but it hasn't really stood out above and beyond for me yet. That's the Marvel Comics I read. Let's move over to DC. Batman Curse of the White Knight, issue number 4. Best issue of this series yet, at least in my opinion. Sean Murphy does a great job with the artwork, but does a great job with the characterization, with the story. After the tragic events of last issue, we are dealing with the ramifications of that. It's a nice spotlight on Barbara Gordon's Batgirl character. Fantastic. I love the artwork. Matt Hollingsworth on the coloring. It has this like muted tone, which really provides a really dark, oppressive atmosphere to the book that's very appropriate to the story. I'm becoming really engaged with this book right now, especially because of this issue and the last issue, the two most solid issues of Curse of the White Knight so far. I loved White Knight. Curse started off pretty solid, but I don't know, it didn't really kind of hit the same, I don't know, it just didn't really hit that level. But in this issue, it really does. This was absolutely fantastic. I loved it so much. Great artwork, great coloring, fantastic book, great characterization, a great, just fun. I love this book so much. Really, Sean Murphy can keep doing his little Batman world indefinitely as far as I'm concerned. Year of the Villain rolls on through with the Black Adam one-shot. So this is the Black Adam versus King Shazam, the infected version of the Shazam, right? The Shazam that's been infected by the Batman Who Laughs, right? So all this stuff is going on. So while you have the rise of Luthor and Perpetua, you got the Batman Who Laughs and his plans, right? And that's all going on in Batman Superman. We'll get to that in just a second. But this Black Adam series, this one-shot, it's okay. It's all right. Like, if you're a huge Black Adam fan, definitely check it out. It's nice to see the little fight, you know, whatever, but it's inconsequential. It's not really worth too much to the main gist of the story or anything like that. It's okay. It's written by Paul Jenkins, and it's doable, but it's just okay. It's just okay. To me, honestly, these Year of the Villain one-shots have been okay. Kind of skippable in the long run. But I guess it's too late really for us now, isn't it? Anyway, Batman Superman number 3 is here. This is that big story and focusing right now on Batman Who Laughs, his plans, the beginning of it. We know we got a lot more to come. Joshua Williamson's been doing a great job with here. David Marquez's artwork is really splendid, really fun. But Batman and Superman versus the Batman Who Laughs. And the Batman Who Laughs is now infecting people. We already know who all the infected are just based on teasers and ads and just reveals and stuff like that. But the way it's revealed in story to Batman and Superman, really hard-hitting, really great stuff. This book is big, it's fun, but it's just a stepping stone into what's coming. And that's something I really like. If you pay attention right now, the Snyder, Tynion, and Williamson books, they're setting up stuff. They're setting up things, and they're setting up something big. Something really big. And of course, it's a crisis. And I am super excited for DC Crisis 2020, and we'll be covering that, of course, here on the channel. Superman in Action Comics 1016. One of the best issues of Action Comics by Bendis, period. I love it. It's very typical Bendis. It's a story trick that he does many times in his tenure over at Marvel, right? But it works so well for me in this issue. Now, this is also the second part of the whole Naomi meets Superman and Batman type thing. And so it kind of, like, Naomi by Bendis and David F. Walker has been perfection. That hardcover, by the way, I think is out today, so be on the lookout for that. But Action Comics 1016 is a very Bendis comic, but it works, and it works. But it's a story thing it's a story trick that he does a lot. But it works. It works in Action 1016. The character Naomi has helped brighten this book out, and Bendis is also turned a corner by the end of this issue and this whole invisible mafia thing that really gets me anxious to see how he's about to wrap this up, and I want to see what Bendis has coming up. You know, I've been kind of wearing, the Bendis stuff on Superman has been wearing thin on me. A reread is in order, and a video will come after that. I'm not promising that in the next week, 2 or 3 or whatever, but it's gonna happen, you'll see. Justice League Dark is out this week with issue number 16. Now we know this book is basically ending at issue number, I don't know the issue number, but in January, James Tynion, you can see what he's been building up to, and it's been really cool, really cool. The revelations of last issue, of course, run right into the new issue, issue number 16. I've been loving this book. James Tynion and company have been doing a splendid job. The artwork is fantastic. The story is hitting that crucial point. Everything's being explained and becoming more clear, and it makes me really want to go back and read all this to get the gist and flow of the entire thing, all in like one afternoon or something. But Justice League Dark 16 out this week. Detective Comics 1014 continues this Mr. Freeze story where he's trying to bring back Nora. Of course, he's got these new gifts from Luthor. He doesn't have to wear his armor anymore, and he brings back Nora in this issue, and it's really, really fun. I just really like it. I think it's really cool. Now, definitely all the Scott Snyder New 52 stuff has been undone. The idea that Nora was someone who was frozen ages ago and Freeze just became obsessed with her while she was frozen, that's all out the window. But if you're a big Mr. Freeze fan, if you like that story, especially that, Heart of Ice episode of Batman the Animated Series, you know, I just found out that Mike Mignola helped the redesign of Mr. Freeze for that series. It makes total sense why it's so badass. Anyway, Detective Comics, this story with Mr. Freeze has been awesome. I didn't like the Deadshot story before. This Mr. Freeze story has been splendid. I love it. I love the tie-in to Year of the Villain. 1014 Detective Comics. Freeze fans, be on the lookout. Some big changes. Big changes. It can only end in tragedy. I'm telling you that. Flash number 81 is here. This is a wrap-up of the Death of the Speed Force story. Scott Collins back on the artwork has been really fun. Nice feeling of nostalgia back when he did the run with Wally West in the Jeff Johns days. But this has been a fun story, wrapping it up, and it makes sense and kind of clearing the air. And once again, Joshua Williamson doing a very consistent job on Flash and helping set up what's to come with this big DC Crisis 2020. Hashtag DC Crisis 2020, right? I don't know. Anyway, Flash number 81 is a really nice conclusion of that story and a big setup for this whole Rogues Risen, or whatever they're going to be calling it. The Rogues are They got their power level upped by Luther. They're ready. They're badass. And it's just great. One of the fun things that Joshua Williamson does on The Flash is he ends stories and begins others at the exact same time. And it's really, really fun. And it helps amp up the dramatic tension in the book and the excitement level. Flash number 81 out this week. I've been loving it. Aquaman Annual number 2. Written by Kelly Sue DeConnick and Vita Ayala. Very excited for that. I'm a big fan of Vita Ayala and their work. Aquaman number 2, the annual. It's a nice, interesting, fun story. Basically, it's Aquaman trying to find his dog. After an attack by a goofy supervillain, his dog goes missing, and he tries to find the dog. And that's basically what it is. It's got a little bit of a tie-in to Year of the Villain, mostly the big light signal in the sky, but really interesting stuff. I'm a big Aquaman fan. I think Kelly Sue and company have done a great job with the character, kind of taking the idea, doing their own thing with it, putting it in a new world, and putting a new take on it, but just similar enough so that it's not so different from Aquaman. Anyway, Aquaman Annual number 2 out this week. Freedom Fighters number 10. This book is awesome. It keeps ramping up. The artwork by Eddie Barrows is absolutely fantastic. It's big. It's explosive. It's exactly what it needs to be. This is getting close to the end. It's a 12-issue series. This is issue number 10. Freedom Fighters is about an alternate Earth where Germany won World War II and they just kept dominating for years and years and years, and the Nazi regime and all that stuff. And now it's up to the new version of the Freedom Fighters led by Uncle Sam to bring that spirit back to America, to overturn that evil, oppressive regime. And it's so much fun, so superhero-y, very dark, but very, very, very inspirational at the same time. Freedom Fighters number 10. Robert Venditti and company have been doing a splendid job with that one. Dial H for Hero number 8. A really innovative issue, very interesting issue, really cool technique on how they tell the story. I don't really want to get too much into it, but if you're interested in how comic books can tell a story and how you can actually experiment with that, if you're really interested in craft and doing something different with the comic book page, check out Dial H for Hero number 8. Even if you haven't read any of the issues that came before, which you should, because Sam Humphries and company have been doing a great job with this one. But this is one of the most innovative ways to tell a story that I've read in comic book this year. And that includes that palindrome issue of Ice Cream Man. This is really interesting. Dial H for Hero number 8 is, wow, very well done. So that's what I read from DC. Let's jump over to the other publishers, including Vault Comics. We got some launches and some we got some books from Vault out this week. Money Shot number 1 is here this week. It's an interesting book with a really cool concept. The idea is that in the near future, aliens find us, they arrive, and they look at our society, and they're like, you know what, never mind, you're not invited to the party, and they dip out, right? So now nobody cares about exploration or science or anything like that, and the whole culture's just jaded. So how does this group of scientists decide to fund exploration into the universe? By making porn videos, right? But it's a book about porn, but it's not porn. And that's what I like about it, right? This book is actually fun. It's got a nice heart to it. It's kind of like Zack and Miri make a porno in space a little bit. It's not too raunchy. It's not too in your face. Warning, the book does contain some human anatomy. But I liked it. It was fun. It's got a nice tone to it. It's a little light, but it's a little serious. And like I said, I've also read issue number 2 of this one, and it really does have a great human element of drama that really keeps it going beyond just the fun concept of the book. So it's going to bring a lot of people into this book. It's getting kind of hype already. You're hearing a lot of rumblings out there. So be on the lookout. Check it out. There is, of course, the homage cover to Fantastic Four issue 2. Is it 220? Yes, 220. John Byrne. I'm a huge John Byrne fan. Fantastic Four is my favorite comic book. John Byrne was one of my favorite artists growing up. So John Byrne's Fantastic Four, obviously one of my favorite comic book runs of all time. So I'm really, really stoked and thankful that Vault Comics did that homage for it. There's also these 2 adult-oriented covers. They're in bags. There's 2 different ones, a cover C, a cover D, one by Tim Seeley, one by Mirka Andolfo. So be on the lookout for that. They're probably going to be pretty hot, if I had to guess. Sarah and the Royal Stars number 4 is out this week. I've been loving this book. A little bit of East meets West. Really, really fun. It's got a manga influence, but it's also just a great high fantasy, Middle Eastern influence. A lot of Egyptian stuff in here. A lot of mythology being referenced. A lot of astrology being referenced. I really like this book. I think it's great. John Sway, Audrey Mock, the whole entire creative team. I want to point out the coloring on this book. The colorist is Raul Angulo. Oh, the coloring in this book is splendid, and I'm just going to show you a page or 2 from the very, very end of the book where I really want to spotlight the beautiful, luxurious coloring. It's so good. Sarah and the Royal Stars. If you like high fantasy, if you like Asian-influenced fantasy, definitely check out Sarah and the Royal Stars. Resonant #4 is also out this week. This book's been amazing. Written by D.B. Andre, Alejandro Aragon, Jason Wordie on the artwork, Darren Bennett on the lettering. And I really got to give kudos once again to the letterer, because this is a book where sound is so important. And you can't hear a comic book, right? You can't hear a comic book. But you definitely can hear resonant. You know what I'm saying? The artwork, the coloring, the lettering, the writing, it all works together to make a very audible type experience. I'm not even kidding. It's almost like you can hear resonant. This book is so amazing. The craft involved in making this book is perfection. Resonant #4 is out this week. The story takes a very interesting, dark, and dire turn. Of course that's going to happen, right? I think there's only one issue left, so we got to hit to an ending, but I want to see this book continue. This could be like the new Walking Dead, and I really like it. From Dark Horse Comics, Count Crowley, Reluctant Midnight Monster Hunter. This is one of your sleeper hits of the week. This book was really cool. I liked it a lot. So Count Crowley is a character. It's one of those weekend night things, you know, on a local TV station where you tune in and it's some cheesy, you know, person in cheesy gaudy makeup out of a cheesy coffin talking about an old cheesy horror movie, right? A little bit like Svengoolie, but a little bit less classy than Svengoolie, right? And I'm a big Svengoolie fan. And so it's really cool to see the spotlight in the DC books anyway. Oh, super cool, right? But anyway, Count Crowley, Reluctant Monster Hunter, Midnight Monster Hunter. It's about a disgraced newswoman who now that's her gig. That's the only thing she can get. She got to pay rent, so she's going to do this, right? She's got an alcohol problem. She's avoiding a lot of problems in her life. And then she's thrust into this, and then she finds out that maybe there's more to it than just hosting cheesy, you know, horror movies. Maybe there's some real horror involved as well. This book is really cool. If you want some fun Halloween fun, interesting. Count Crowley, Reluctant Midnight Monster Hunter. You definitely want to check that out. I thought that was really, really cool. Very cool. Also from Dark Horse, Tommy Gun Wizards #3, the penultimate issue. This is the Untouchables meets Magic, right? So it's Elliot Ness, the Untouchables, versus Al Capone. But instead of alcohol being prohibited, it's the use of magic, right? But it's really, really cool. The artwork by Sammy Cavella is amazing, especially some of the coloring as well. The coloring in this book, the artwork, the layouts, the composition, absolutely fantastic. Christian Ward's done a great job of taking a familiar concept, tweaking it, adding some new elements to it, and making something fresh and vibrant and fun with it. Tommy Gun Wizards, #3, out this week. Definitely worth you checking out. Also from Dark Horse, Hellboy and the BPRD, Saturn Returns, issue #3, the final issue of a miniseries. That's fun, and it adds some new dimension and layers to some characters and some time for Hellboy fans. But if you're not already a Hellboy fan, this isn't necessarily going to be the best book to turn you on. I would definitely recommend checking out Seed of Destruction or checking out one of the earlier Hellboy and the BPRD books. But they're nice, fun auxiliary tales to the history of Hellboy, and this has been not disappointing. But like I said, it's not going to be one of those ones that's like, it's not a good first Hellboy comic, but it's still pretty solid. From Ahoy, we have Second Coming, issue #4. I love this book so much. Mark Russell, Richard Pace and company are doing such a great job of taking a book that could just be easily just be irreverent, right? The whole point could just be irreverent to make fun and all that stuff, but it really, this is a great story about humanity. It's a great story about society. It's a great story about religion and spirituality. I love this book so much. It's got a lot of nuance and heart to it in the midst of a lot of irreverent humor, some really fun stuff. The book has fun with its story and its characters, but it also takes them very seriously. Some really cool lines, some great stuff. Some things that are going to make you just fall out of your chair laughing, and some things that are going to make you fall out of your chair thinking hard about your life. Second Coming #4, a splendid job, out this week. From Image Comics, The Return of Ascender. Ascender #6 is out. Also, the first trade paperback of the collected Ascender is out today, so definitely check that one out. Ascender #6 is a great start to the next story, building up more of these characters, more of this world, amping up that story. Everybody's got their ideas about Star Wars. You know what I'm saying? We got that new Rise of Skywalker trailer. Everybody's like, you know, some people are, it's very divisive, very polarizing, right? If you're disappointed in Star Wars, even if you're not, if you just want to capture that feel but something better, Descender and Ascender, absolutely fantastic stuff. Great. Originally, Descender was great sci-fi. Now we got a great fantasy that's been built out of it. Ascender is absolutely amazing. Some really big gut-wrenching moments happening here. Beautiful artwork by Dustin Nguyen, Jeff Lemire and company. They have been killing this book. I have loved it so much. Ascender number 6 out this week. Also, Middle West number 12 is out this week. Scotty Young, Jorge Corona and company doing a fantastic job. This book is great. Takes some great turns in the story here. Beautiful artwork. Some great bits. Great double-page spreads. Really emotional when it needs to be. A great sense of pace. A great sense of mythology and story. Story and mythology. Mythology and story. Middle West number 12 out this week. You know you got to get it. Criminal number 9 is here. Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips and company doing an amazing job. The coloring in this book is absolutely amazing. That's by Jacob Phillips. The coloring, the pace, the tone, the composition, the dialogue, everything about this book is splendid. It's perfect crime fiction, film noir type stuff. If you like that, if you've never read Criminal, definitely check it out. This new run, I've never read any Criminal before it, and I've jumped right into it and have enjoyed every single issue. Every issue's been different and unique, but the same atmosphere, same tone, great characters, great world building, fantastic stuff. Criminal number 9 out this week. Dr. Mirage number 3 from Valiant Comics. This might be one of my favorite Valiant Comics I've ever read. Dr. Mirage is a little psychedelic, a little trippy when it needs to be, but also grounded in human emotion, especially grief, right? Really like this one. Max Visaggio doing such a great job. You got Nick Robles and Jordi Belair on the artwork. Once again, coloring takes precedence. The coloring on this book is amazing, very otherworldly. Of course, it should be otherworldly because they're exploring an other world in Dr. Mirage number 3. Great, brilliant concepts and ideas, great characterizations, and like I said, a great exploration on grief and the depression that can fall out of that. Really great stuff. Dr. Mirage number 3 out this week. Another issue number 3 from Mad Cave Studios is Show's End number 3. Probably one of the most solid issues of this already solid series yet. Mad Cave, they're doing some really interesting stuff. They got a new one coming out called Over the Ropes. I talked to the creator of that, Jay Sandlin, recently here on the channel, so check out that video, but that's coming up, as you can see there. But Show's End is a great story about a freak show, a traveling freak show, and they take in this young girl who turns into a monster, and then it's about, it's about the conflict between them and certain towns. It's conflict about themselves, amongst themselves, and just, there's so much about this book. It's so endearing. I love the characters. I love the artwork. It's crisp. It's clean. This is written by Anthony Cleveland with Jeff Sadzinski on the artwork and Julian Gonzalez on the coloring. I really like this book. This was my favorite issue so far. This is something definitely worth your time, definitely worth checking out. Show's End number 3, a beautiful, tragic tale of a freak show back in the day. Angel number 6 is here. Tie into Hellmouth, they say, but not really. So while Angel's busy over in Buffy and Hellmouth, what are Gunn and Fred gonna do? Well, they're gonna, protect LA on their own, and then you throw Spike into the mix, right? So this is a great issue, but don't expect this big, giant tie-in to the Hellmouth, but maybe it's just something that they're building up to. Maybe it's they're gonna have to do something that will help Buffy and Angel over in their own book, whatever. Brian Hill and company have been doing a great job already. The dialogue is solid, the pacing is solid, the characterizations are solid. They're getting to things really quickly in here, but that's what they're doing, right? They don't have a guaranteed, 5-season thing to get to, and they're getting to some of the best parts very, very quickly. The character work, the pacing, the artwork, the coloring, everything about this book is really fun. If you're a big Angel, Buffy fan, definitely worth checking out. The new stuff, it's new, yet familiar, different, yet the same, and I think it's pretty cool. From Aftershock, we have You Are Obsolete number 2. I wasn't quite sold on issue number 1. Issue number 2 unsold me. Didn't really like this one, didn't find it interesting, it didn't grab me, didn't captivate me. It's an okay idea, but it just didn't do that. Speaking of just didn't quite do that, Bad Reception number 3 is here. I love Wando's artwork, but his story's a little stiff. It's just a little stagnant. It doesn't quite flow as well. The artwork is great, especially the coloring in certain bits. Some great mystery, some great revelations in this issue. It's a cool whodunit murder mystery. It's a great idea. The execution of it, as far as the script goes, is just a little stagnant for me. That being said, I love the artwork. I don't know. I think this might be Wando's first attempt at writing on his own. That being said, it's commendable. It's a cool idea. It just hasn't quite completely captured me in execution. That's mostly involving the script. From Source Point Press, I read a couple this week. I was kind of disappointed in these. Beyond the Demon, The Sea. I definitely wanted to check this out. I flipped through it at my work. It's a one-shot. What I really liked about it is the art style. The art style is very much like those like old sailor tattoos, and it's really cool, and it's kind of involved in the theme of the story. So that's really, really cool. The artwork is amazing in this. I really like it. If you're a big tattoo aficionado, if you love that style of like sailor tattoos, the old school type stuff, definitely check this one out. The story is kind of interesting. It's all over the place, a little weird. Maybe something I want to revisit in a couple weeks to see how it flows in a different way. It's a little out there, a little weird. This was definitely, it made me want to watch The Lighthouse for some reason, which is not showing in my town. Anyway, I definitely will check it out soon. But Beyond the Demon, the Sea, I like the title. I love the artwork, but the story just didn't quite capture me. Then we have Monday Fatality, Mandager, or whatever it's called. This one didn't do much for me. It had an interesting, you know, art style to it that I did like, but the story was just kind of muddy all over the place and just didn't really like it. Just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know. That's what I thought. So that's what I read. That's what I thought about it. Like I said, some great comic books out this week. Definitely check out Show's End. Check out Money Shot for sure. Get them bagged variants if you can, if you're specking on things. Going to the Chapel, though, was great. Marauders #1 was great, too. But Going to the Chapel, #2 for me, pick of the week. If your shop didn't have it, ask them for it. It's great stuff. Fantastic. Like I said, Die Hard in a wedding. Fantastic stuff. What if Quentin Tarantino directed Wedding Crashers? Right? I don't know. What are you reading? What are you excited for? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget, our 5,000 subscribers contest, the 5K giveaway, is going on right now. Check out one of the previous videos from this week, the 5,000 contest announcement to see how to enter, but you can get multiple entries, including being one of our patrons. So if you're over at patreon.com/PCP, hopefully you're listening to the audio-only early access version of this, and thank you so much. If not, why don't you hop on over there and help support the channel? We're trying to get some new equipment. We could really use your help. Thank you so much for checking out the video again. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading.